Hi, Scott. How are you?
Hey Marta, I'm good. How are you?
Also good, excited about our session. We are here to do a vibe coding using SubQuery and Cursor and show our users, our followers, how easy it is to actually build a dApp using modern tools and using SubQuery, and explain why it's also important to use indexing, how does it help builders. And we have also a few announcements. We want to talk more about consumer rewards program, but most importantly, we want to build a complete dApp on the session.
Yeah, cool.
And
That's
I'm probably this excited because I am not going to build it. I will be here with popcorn. I don't have popcorn, but I could. And just watching you, Scott, trying to solve this task and asking many questions. Okay, let's learn a bit more about what we are trying to do. So our goal is to build a complete dApp using SubQuery and Vibe Coding. And the main goal of this application is to allow SQT token holders to mint an NFT with an AI-generated image. So this is the basic functionality. And to achieve that, there are a few elements that we definitely need to do. We need a smart contract for minting NFTs. We need to combine front-end and back-end. We, of course, need to use specific tools with vibe coding to be able to do it in a fast, efficient way over one session. I know that you already prepared some stuff ahead of this call, so you will walk us through it. And then we'll also need SubQuery project, and we'll explain why we need SubQuery projects to index data, why it's important to use indexer to increase the performance of your application, increase end user experience, but also help developers to smooth their development process and help them obtain data from blockchain in an easier way. Probably you want to elaborate a little bit, Scott, around those items. What's needed from the technical side?
Yeah, cool. So I've already vibe coded a lot of this. We already have the smart contract and the front end built with vibe coding already. The smart contract's the bit that runs on the blockchain, and that can store our state. So that stores the NFTs for us and links to the metadata. And then the front end and back end gives us the ability to interact with that smart contract in a nice, easy way and in a visual way, and works with kind of the standard kind of user flows that people expect when working with blockchain stuff. And then the subquery part really makes the data in that smart contract accessible. And so we can use that to really supercharge our front end.
Excellent. And there are a lot of steps also to achieve that. What we need to do, we will explain the application in a greater detail, the application we are building, and also parts of it that you've already vibe coded ahead of our call. We'll also dive a little deeper into why we need an indexer. And then we will start vibe coding with Cursor, right? And the plan is to integrate SubQuery project with the front end, so the data from the blockchain will be delivered through to our application layer, to front end application layer via SubQuery project. And we want to also deploy this project on SubQuery network, which is a decentralized marketplace for builders and node operators, essentially allowing developers to truly benefit from a fully decentralized network of globally distributed node operators. You can publish your project on the network, and it will be indexed by node operators active on the network for you. And what's exciting is that right now we are running consumer rewards program that could hugely benefit, bring a lot of value to builders and users. And the part of our vibe coding session, or in general, our mission here, is to deploy a project on the network that will meet the requirements of consumer rewards program. And yeah, we of course need to deploy the updated UI at the end, but those would be the steps, the entire process that we want to do. And about the consumer rewards program, I want to tell a few more things, because that's the biggest campaign we ever launched. We allocated 60 million SQT to reward builders. This is absolutely huge. This whole initiative is 1 year long. It works this way that we are rewarding builders actively using SubQuery network for their data needs with SQT. It works this way that every month we are tracking the SQT spending. You need to spend some SQT to get your project indexed. We track SQT spendings between all the users. We have a transparent leaderboard. Each month we reward top projects based on their SQT spending. It's a proportional distribution. The more SQT you spend, the higher reward would be, and you can receive up to 900 APY, which is really, really huge. This means that the decentralized network itself is very cost optimized. It lowers the barrier of entry for developers. It's definitely more affordable than managed hosting. But then on top of that, with consumer rewards program, as a developer, not only decrease indexing costs, but even earn some SQT on top of your already indexed data. So it's just like win-win. And yeah, so would love for developers to get a chance to know about this program, hop on the network and benefit from it. So if you want to learn more about it, you can do it using this link or QR code, or visit our website for more information as well. But we'll be also talking about it more later. So that's the intro from my side, which means that we are starting to do the vibe coding session. And we should have this, like, how you call it in movies, a clap?
A clap, yeah, we can clap.
Or like, yes. And we should start something time from now on, like, how long will it take to go through all those steps?
Yeah, it'll be hopefully pretty quick. Hopefully we're not here all day. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, share this one. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, let's show everyone how easy it is to vibe code and use SubQuery and then take part in the Consumer Rewards program. Hopefully this is a quick process. Hopefully AI is friendly today and has had its coffee. So what I have here is our dApp that we've already started building. This is the front end that we've built for it, and currently it's deployed just on the base Sepolia test network, and I've already used it. I've already minted my NFT. So you can see some information here. This is all UI generated through vibe coding. So I haven't had a lot of say in how this looks, just how it functions. So you can see up the top here, I've got my wallet connected. You can see my wallet address. I'm just using MetaMask, and then you can see that we're using base Sepolia. The next section gives us just some like requirements to mint one of these SubQuery Vibe NFTs. So all you need to do is hold some SubQuery tokens. Pretty low barrier to entry. And then you can't see it right now, but we have a section here to generate an NFT. I've already generated my NFT, so I can't generate another one. But then you can see over here that I have minted an NFT, and it's got a AI generated image, and it's got some information about it, like the prompts we used, and yeah, just a couple of other little details. So that's it. There's not much to it. It's pretty basic. And I can now jump into the code base and I guess walk through that a little bit, show what we've done so far, how it works, maybe some of the limitations that we have currently. So the big limitation is finding your NFTs in the ERC 721, which is the NFT token standard that we're using. It's not that easy to figure out what NFTs you own. You can see how many of those NFTs you own. So in this case, for me, it's just one, but you don't know what NFTs it is. So if there's 10,000 NFTs in this collection and you want to figure out what NFTs you own in that collection, you would have to potentially make up to 10,000 requests to the blockchain to figure out what ones you own and the information about those specific ones as well. This doesn't work very well. It works right now where we've got
it can take some time.
Yeah, we've got 3 NFTs, but if you're going to make 10,000 requests, that's going to take a lot of time. It's going to use a lot of resources to do that. You might get rate limited or blocked because you're spamming the blockchain just to get this information. So we're going to use SubQuery to simplify this. So the SubQuery project's going to store an index of who owns what NFTs, and we can keep some other information as well. So we're going to build a SubQuery project, and then we're going to integrate that SubQuery project into this front end so that we don't need to make a lot of requests and we can see this information, and hopefully it comes together a bit quicker.
On that note, like the limitation you mentioned, there probably to some of our viewers, it's obvious what is the nature of problem with data accessibility on blockchain, but for some maybe not. This could be applicable to any dApp, any application that needs any data on blockchain, no matter what is their use case. Is it like a DAO? So you need the information around governance. We are focusing on NFT, so we want that. Any DeFi application, no matter is the use case. If you would need to display specific data in your application, you will need to do a lot of unnecessary requests, check through all the data on all the blocks, starting from the block you are interested in, which is not really efficient. It takes time. You can get blocked, as you said. And so this is where indexers are coming to the picture and saving the day.
Yeah, and the time that you're spending looking through the blockchain for this data, the data can update. It's out of date already. So you have to be very careful otherwise.
Exactly.
Cool.
So just before we jump to it, what type of data we are searching, if we could sum it up again, like what do we need to get from blockchain? We want to know if the NFT was minted and to whom it belongs, right? So we can display that someone cannot or can mint NFT or cannot, like in your case. So we need an ownership.
Yeah, so we can check if people own any number of NFTs really easily, but we can't check what NFTs they own. I mean, our contract functions as it is intended, but in order to make this front end more usable and user-friendly, it's really good to have that SubQuery data. And you can do extra things, so you can have some analytics on top of this and see how many NFTs they are and how often they're minted, and view other people's NFTs, and not just stuff about your account. You can do anything you want. And we can do extra metadata as well. So looking at the chain, we can't easily tell when this NFT was minted. We can only see the current state. We can't really see any of the history. So when it was minted, who it was minted by, if it's been transferred to other people, we can get a whole lot of extra metadata out of that as well. And so we may as well do some of that while we're building this.
All right.
Cool. So I'm jumping into Cursor now, and this is our project already. It's set up in what's called a mono repo. So I've got one repo, in it we've got some packages, which includes the contracts. So these are the smart contracts that run on chain. And then we've got the front end. In this case, we're using Next.js for our front end, so we can have a bit of a pseudo front end and back end combined. So we're using this back end in the front end to generate our images. But I'll run through kind of some of the critical parts of this. There's a few extra files in here and things that I won't go over just to keep things simple. So the first one is we've got our fired NFT. This is our smart contract. You can see that it's ERC 721 standard. This whole thing was vibe coded, so it might not be the most perfect, pretty code you'll ever see. But the critical part here is that there's a function called safe mint. And this takes in the metadata for the NFT, which includes like the image, a name, our prompt information, and a signature. And the signature is just to say from our backend, hey, this has been generated by the right account. So you can see here, you can't mint if you've already owned an NFT, and then you can't mint if you don't own any SubQuery tokens, and then it validates the signature, and then lastly, it'll actually mint the NFT. So this is pretty basic. There's not a lot to it, which is nice and easy for this use case and easy to understand. One thing I don't think this shows is that when you mint a new NFT, it'll emit an event on chain as an output to this function. And that event will be a transfer event. So you're transferring it from nothing to someone. So we're going to use that event as our trigger for what data to capture when we build our SubQuery project. So I think there's enough for the contracts. I can go over the front end a little bit. So this is built using Next.js, which is a React framework, and the vibe coding's kind of chosen all the libraries and everything to use in here as well. So where are the critical bits? So we just have one page on our site, and yeah, it renders all the information we need, pretty big here. And then we also have an API, and this API does the image generation for us. So if I go up to the top, we have some prompts that gets used by the AI. We collect some other information here just to make sure that we have all the parameters we need, like who's minting it. And we do some similar checks, like what happens in our smart contract, so that we don't generate this image and then end up not using it because they already have an NFT. So there's a couple of like little checks and balances, but you can see here we're using OpenAI to generate an image, and then we're downloading this image, and then to store this image we're using IPFS, which is a decentralized file storage, so that our image is accessible to people. And then we create some metadata. It includes the prompt, the style, where it's generated, and it'll include a link to our image as well. And then we create a signature. There's quite a few steps here just to build the different pieces. And with all this, we're at the stage where we can mint NFTs through our UI and we can see our NFT. But as this grows, it's not going to scale well. This is where we need SubQuery to come in. So let's get vibe coding. My goal with this is to try and not write any code.
That's a good challenge. That's a good challenge. Maybe
So-
you need popcorn too.
Yeah, hopefully the AI is quick and doesn't just leave us waiting all night. I'm going to add the SubQuery project to our existing monorepo project because we want it to be all together. So let's get typing. So it's already telling me a whole lot of stuff.
Let's maybe look at this because you know it by heart, but let's just imagine we are looking at this or some of our users first time. So it's like not only doing stuff for us, but telling us what would be the plan.
Yeah, so here it's not done what I wanted. It's just told me what I should do, but I want it to do it for me. So it's told me to create a project, configure it for the right network, define some entities, create my mapping handlers, and then run it.
And this should be the typical way if you want to be actively building SubQuery, but we want it to do it for us.
Yeah. So let's tell it to do stuff for us.
Yes, I need one more coffee also.
Okay, so it's tried and it's failed. It needs more detail, the CLI. It's still failed again, and it's like, hey, do you want me to proceed? And so let's keep trying.
Maybe it has a bad day. Rough morning.
Okay, so it's trying and it's working through things. So it's chosen the Ethereum network for some reason rather than base Sepolia. So I'm going to stop this and change it and say, be a bit more direct with it and be a bit more specific.
Sure.
You never know how it's going to go. It can always do something different every time.
It's actually really interesting because there's a lot of unexpectancy or like a lot of things that can surprise you. You have to keep an eye on what's happening.
Yeah, you got to go with the vibes.
Yeah. Okay.
So here it's like prompting me and wanting me to interact with the CLI, but it is jumping around a bit. So I'm going to push enter, and then it's going to choose some other things for me. And so I think now it's installing some dependencies. You can see on the side here that it's actually created a SubQuery project for us. So is it all done? I think it's installing the node modules at the moment. So let's see what happens if this finishes. This can take a little bit of time because there's a few things for it to download.
Sure.
But in the meantime, maybe we can start looking through some of the project files. So earlier on, it said to configure some things in the project. You can see that it's taken like a base Sepolia starter, which is a template project. It's got some configuration stuff, so it's already set the chain ID and endpoint through environment variables. And then it's already got some pre-existing ERC20 contract that will index some existing data. It's prompting me to do stuff again. Okay, it's said on the side that our project's fully created, but I'll keep running through this. So it's going to index an ERC20 project, which is not what we want. So we'll have to update that. And then the other big pieces are, there's a GraphQL schema. So these are the entities and the data that will get stored. We'll need to update that as well, because that's just relevant to the ERC20 example. And then the last piece is some mapping handlers. So
this is where magic happens.
Yeah, this is where all the fun stuff happens. So now that our project's initialized, we don't want it to be for this ERC20 token. We want it to be for our contract, our VibeNFT. So you can see here that we have some other outputs. Here we have our ABI files that are generated. So we've got our VibeNFT artifact, which includes the ABI for our contract. So we want to import that into our project. We could copy this over, and there are a few ways that you can integrate this into a SubQuery project. You can do it manually. You can get ABIs from like the Etherscan API. We'll try and get it to copy it over from our contracts and integrate it into our project. So it's time for our next prompt. I know that in order to index this, it's going to need some more details just than the VibeNFT. It's going to need a contract address and the start block where the data begins. In our case, it's just going to be when the contract was deployed, which is generally the case with most SubQuery projects, because that's when you start getting data coming through from the project. So I'm going to copy this information through. You can see here I'm on the base scan for Sepolia, and this is our contract page. So I'm going to use this address here, and we'll feed this into the AI. When it was deployed, I can also use the Block Explorer. So you might think that a Block Explorer can be the fallback rather than having index data. A Block Explorer is also kind of index blockchain data, but it's very general purpose and isn't set up in a way that is user-friendly to your dApp. So you might find some use in it, but it's not very useful overall. And you can get just the data you need in the format you want.
That's true. That's why like indexers, because you have chain explorers, you have also services that provide ready-made data sets, like data set for DeFi, for instance. And then there are indexers like SubQuery, where you have a full control over what type of data you want to index and how you want to store it in the database, what objects you need, what properties, what relationships between them. You're also in full control over the mappings file, which you can do a lot there. You can use external libraries, API calls, you can maybe some double check some information, get some off-chain data in your database as well. Sky is the limit. Like it really, at the end, the application can be tailored, the data can be tailored to the needs of your applications.
Yeah, it's much more powerful.
Yeah.
So I've almost got my prompt ready, but I'm going to add some context here. So I'm going to add this file to the context. just to make it a bit easier for the AI to know what I'm talking about and what I'm referring to.
You
Let's
are
see
very
how we do.
generous. Let's see if it fails.
So you can see it's already generated this command, but it's failed. So hopefully it tries again. And it has failed again. And now it's making up its own mind, I think. So we'll go into it and then we will change this ever so slightly. So I'm going to tell it to use the pre-installed SubQuery CLI, and then I need to just update this because we're working in a different directory now. And hopefully this works. Cool. That's progressed further. So it's read my ABI, and now it's telling me to select what parts from the ABI I want to import. So you can see here, it wants me to select an event. So there's a few events here, but the one we want is just the transfer event. So when an NFT is minted, it'll emit this transfer event. So we'll just select that, and then it's asking for the functions. We could do safe mint, but in this case, I don't think we really need to worry about that. We can achieve all we need to achieve through the event. And the event is generally the preferred way, because if another contract were to call this contract, then safe mint wouldn't be the function being called, or wouldn't be the entry point to the transaction. So it might not get picked up. So we'll just continue now, and it looks like it's generated it for us. So let's check out our project, see what's changed. So you can see now it's imported our VibeNFT, and the big change should be in project TS. We now have a new data source here, and this includes our VibeNFT, the contract address, reference to our ABI, a handler, and the filter that we need. So even though we cheated a little bit there and used the CLI command directly, we still haven't really written any code.
Okay, it's approved by me.
Yeah, and then the last thing it's done is it's also created an entry point to our mapping handler, but it hasn't done any logic. Let's keep going. Let's keep vibing. The next thing I want to do is get it to update the entities here so that we choose what data we want to store. So I'm going to remove the context, and then we'll add a new context to this GraphQL schema. Update. I want to have two entities here. I want to have one entity that is all the transfers, and then another entity that is the NFTs. So we can see who currently owns the NFT, when they were last transferred, or who minted them, and some extra information. So we'll tell it what we want to.
Yes.
So we'll get it to do one at a time. You can see it updated it that quick, super quick. I don't even think I could type that quick. And we'll get it to do the other entity now. And here it goes again. Cool. So it's created our second entity. I think I want in the NFT entity also to have a timestamp.
Yeah. And shall we also ask it to clean up and remove objects we don't want, entities we don't want?
Let's do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
I wrote it, but yeah.
I thought the same. Well, at the time, yeah.
I find with vibe coding, you can be very high level and pray that it does everything you want, where you can be a bit more specific and it'll do its thing. Remove the transfer and approval.
In that situation, for now, it only removed the entities from schema, but should it also remove relevant places in mappings file?
Yeah, so there are other places. So there's still references in the mapping file. I will get it to do that now. Let's try to bite off a bigger piece and get it to remove some more stuff. We can add, remove anything real to here, see 20 from here. Project. Cool. So let's see how it goes now. So we're removing pretty much the remaining ERC20 related things. So you can see here it's trying to look through the files and understand what needs to be updated, and there it goes. It's updating the project TS. You can see big chunk of red where it's removed stuff. It's still doing its thing, so we'll just wait until we start accepting some changes. Sometimes it can go a bit overboard and it might break some imports or some other things. It says it's done its thing, so we'll go and have a look now. We'll accept this. I think this is looking pretty good now. So you can see we just have our one data source for our transfer event and nothing else. And then if we go look at the mapping handlers, all of this is gone. So we'll accept that as well. Now the last piece remaining is to implement this mapping handler. But I think we'll just check that everything builds first. So we'll ask it to build the project and then fix up any errors relating to that. So it's back to failing how it was failing before with my imports. Unless there's another error. I think there might be an error. Let's see if we can get that. There we go. So it looks like it built without issue. Cool. I think we can go ahead and we can implement this handler. So we'll refer to this, we'll add context to this file.
In general, this is the moment where we will receive data from blockchain in a payload of the function, and we are able to perform some logic using the data, but the goal is to populate object properties, entity properties with data from blockchain and save it in a database. That's what we want to do.
Yep.
And just for the record, I'm not the one who's explaining it to Scott. Scott is our lead SDK developer at SubQuery. He knows.
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying it for the users or viewers, of course.
Yeah, I've got some ideas as to how things work in SubQuery. Okay, cool. So it seems to have made our mapping handler. It's still doing stuff. It might build it, and yeah, it's still making changes. So it says it's fixed the issues. Let's accept this just to make it a bit easier to read. So you can see we've still got our same like function signature. It takes our transfer log event. It checks if the arguments are available. This means that for some reason if our ABI couldn't help decode the transaction data, then it would throw an error and we'd have to go fix it. But you can see here that it makes a transfer entity. It fills out all the relevant information for us and then it saves it. So that's one of our entities saved. And then the other one is the NFT entity. So it checks, it will get the NFT from the SubQuery database. If it exists, then it will update it because we've had a transfer and it needs to update the new owner and the last transferred information. If not, it'll create a new entity with original data and it'll save that as well. So that looks pretty good to me. So I think now we can ask it to build it. And hopefully it doesn't find any errors. Oh, it built. So now we want to run it. For now, we're just going to run it locally and later on it'll get deployed to the network when it's going to run long term and be reliably run and be accessible to everyone. Running it here just for development purposes, and it can help us debug our project if there's any issues and validate some of the data that we're getting is correct. So I'm going to use Docker to run it. That's the easiest way to do things. It'll start up a Postgres database, the node to index data, and a query service so you can query that data from the database. The SubQuery project will initialize a Docker Compose to do all this for us. So let's see how it goes. Okay, seems to be running. We'll let it run for a couple more moments just to index some data. It should index data reasonably quickly because it's quite recent data and there's not much activity on this contract yet. So if I go to open up a web page, I know that the GraphQL playground runs on port 3000. So let's play around with it here. We do have a builder to help build queries. So let's get the NFTs. We can do some cool things. We'll get the ID. Just clicking on the side here will build my query here, or you can write it yourself. So I can see the owner, or I can get the last transferred timestamp. What else do we want? The transfers. NFT transfers. It gives us nice autocomplete as well. Block height, transaction hash, token ID, from, to. So this is a pretty generic sort of query that I can do just to get a whole bunch of data. I can see here that it's already indexed 4 NFTs, which is about right. I think we've only minted 4. So you can see here the ID, who owns it. It's on the NFT thing. And then here you can see from and to. So when there's an error address like this, it means that it's been minted. It's come from nowhere. And yeah, so we've already indexed some data, which is great because that's exactly what we need. Now I'm going to change this. We'll do a bit more of a useful one. Filter owner equal to, and then I can use my contract address, not my contract address, my address. So I can see what ones I own. So cool. I can see now, I can query just the one I own. it's not too different to what's happening on chain, but it's going to be a lot more efficient as there's more and more data on chain.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Now we have the data we need. Now we just need to get this data from our SubQuery project and into our front end. So I'll move this to the background and we can keep our SubQuery project running so that we can continue to query it. Now I'm going to create a new chat because we've built our SubQuery project. That part's done now, and now we need to integrate it. So we'll close a few things and just simplify it. And we will get on to the next part. So we've got our front end project here, and we will close this chat, and then we will create a new chat. And let's get this data. Two. Might be worth showing just where this data is coming from currently.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, oh, what's going on? We have some hooks. And I think here you can see we have a fetch NFTs function. So it'll get the total supply of the NFTs. So for example, if there's 10,000, it will run this 10,000 times, which is just ridiculous. And you can see it makes 3 requests here to get information. So it gets the owner of a token by the index, it gets the token by the index, it gets the owner of, and then it gets the token URI. So this is 3 requests that have to be made 10,000 times, which just doesn't scale. And then it will get the image data, which is fine. We're going to have to do that anyway. But yeah, let's make this a lot more efficient. Yeah, let's get prompting. I haven't done this before, so it will be very interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's given us like an overview of what it wants to do, and then it wants some more information. It wants the URL of the SubQuery project, which is understandable, and then it wants the schema for the SubQuery schema to know a bit more about it. So for now, I'm just going to give it this playground URL. We're just running it locally, but we can update this later on if needed to be configurable. And we will just copy and paste the schema here. Oh, and you can see it hasn't actually shown up here, but it's just added context.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So it looks like it's giving us an updated plan. And now it's going through and updating things. It's created a new file.
Is this expected, the new file creation?
I guess so. Cursor has the ability to do that and create new files. And yeah, it can even delete files if you want it to clean up and remove other things that aren't used anymore. So this looks pretty good. It's defined a type, and then it's built a query, which matches what I pretty much had written in the playground here. It's formatted a bit differently, but it might find some errors. So like I can see already some of this casing is not right, but we'll keep running with it, and then we can try and get it to figure things out later on. So has it done anything else? It's also updated use VibeNFT. So yeah, it's gotten rid of a lot of this stuff here. It's now going to call our function, and it still looks like it's going to try and load the metadata, but we shall see. We'll accept this. And I did stop our front end from running. So if we go back to that, so we want that to run, and we can go back. Is it on a different port? No, it's on the same port, so we can reload it here. It is loading. It can take a little while, just the first time to
building up tension.
Yeah. Okay, so we can see that it's failed to fetch the NFTs from SubQuery. So we'll do some inspecting here. We might get some errors. So we'll just copy and paste. So I don't want to write anything that I don't have to. So it's telling me to sort it out, but let's ask it to give more information about the error. I guess this is where things get a bit more tricky, because the cursor doesn't have any context on the errors that are happening, because things are running in the browser. So we'll have to try again. So if we reload the page, cool. So now we've got a much more elaborate error, but I don't know how good it is. Here I can see that we're getting a bad request. So that's where I can go, and I can see a much more detailed error here. Cannot query field NFTs. Sorry, it's a bit small. Did you mean NFTs or NFTs in different casing?
Yeah.
So hopefully now it will update our. It's just suggested a change. We'll get it to actually make the change. So that, yeah, that's looking right now. So it's now found that error I kind of identified earlier. This is where it's still good to have some coding experience in order to be able to fix these things. So let's try this again. Cool. Now we're getting some data, but I don't think we're getting the metadata. So we'll try and get it to add that back in.
Yeah, we haven't seen the NFT picture.
Yeah. In this case, you could do things a bit differently. You could get the SubQuery project to store the metadata for you. This can work really good if you know that metadata is never going to change. but quite often these days, NFTs, they'll have metadata change. So they might update the images or add new metadata to it. And that can be quite hard for SubQuery to know about if it's just a URL. It doesn't know that the data at that URL has changed. So in this case, we're just going to keep querying that data from the URL, which is IPFS in this case directly. Cool. So it's come up with its plan, and now it's telling us what it's going to do, and it's now implementing things. So we'll just accept these changes. I'm just blindly accepting things because we're here for the vibes. And then let's refresh. It's even got loading UI. How amazing is this? We do have it back. With our metadata back. So now we've got the same functionality back, but now rather than this data coming from the blockchain and having to make lots and lots of requests, we now just make a single request to our SubQuery project, and then we make another request per NFT to get that metadata. So that's great.
Amazing. That's so good. And you haven't written a line of code apart from a command here and there in the console.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. The AI has been very handy today. We could now go and implement some other really cool features. So we could have a live view here of NFTs showing up as they're minted, so you can see what other people have done. But just showing your own NFTs for now is good. I think when we get around to deploying this on the base mainnet and deploying the SubQuery project to the network, we'll have a lot more activity on this smart contract. And yeah, there'll be a lot more to show on the dashboard, and we'll get a lot more things and make it a lot more exciting. And we can get data in real time. SubQuery also supports subscriptions. So as new data comes in, we can update the UI in real time. Yeah, there's some pretty cool things you can do.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. I was expecting we'll have more issues. It failed a few times, but there was nothing major, nothing that stopped us from succeeding. It was really pretty nice watch.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I think I've definitely learned how to vibe code. There's definitely a skill to it. And it's a feedback loop, right? So you've got the AI will do something, you run it. If something goes wrong, you then put it back into the AI and then you try again. You just go in this circle until you get what you want.
That's true. And also I have to say, either you just have a great skill already in this feedback loop and cursor subquery, or you read very fast, because there's so much happening, and I'm assuming you're just skimming through it because you're expecting it. You're expecting some type of information, and you already know what to search for, right?
Yeah, it's very verbose in terms of what it says, like all these little intricate details. It repeats itself quite a bit, and all I really care about is like when it updates actual code and it makes actual changes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Congrats.
Really
well
good.
done. Well done. I think we can finish this session now.
Yeah.
The next step would be to deploy the project on the network.
Yeah, and deploy an update to the front end, and yeah, we'll get this
Absolutely.
out. And we'll upload this to GitHub as well, so everyone can see not my code, the AI's code. So if there's any bugs, don't blame me.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Scott.
Cool, no worries.